Hey, have you ever felt like you're surrounded by people, connected to everyone and everything through a screen in your pocket, and yet, profoundly, bone deeply alone? That strange, quiet despair that lives in the background hum of the modern world? That feeling isn't new. It has a name and a map, and it was drawn a century ago by a banker poet named T.S. Eliot. Welcome back. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is The Great Conversation. Today, we're cracking the code of modern despair in episode 39, The Wasteland, Cracking T.S. Eliot's Code. When I first encountered the wasteland in college, I'll be honest, I found it frustrating. It felt like a locked door, a chaotic collage of fragments, different languages, obscure myths, and voices that cut off mid-thought. It was nothing like the poetry I'd grown up with. But years later, living in the relentless pace of New York City, working in the world of tech and startups where everything is about building the future, I found myself thinking back to it. And I finally heard it. It's not a poem you read for a pretty turn of phrase. It's a diagnosis. Eliot was listening to the psychic fracture of the 20th century, the aftermath of a catastrophic war, the rise of the impersonal city, the crumbling of old spiritual anchors, and he translated that fracture into sound. He gave a shape to the shapeless anxiety we now just call modern life. So let's start at the very beginning, with those famous, haunting lines. April is the cruelest month, breeding/lilacs out of the dead land. Now, that's a paradox, right? Spring, the time of renewal, is called cruel. Why? Because it stirs memory and desire. It forces you to feel, to remember a world that was once whole, when you'd rather just stay numb, covered in the forgetful snow of winter. That's the core condition of the wasteland, a preference for numbness over the painful ache of feeling alive. And immediately, Eliot plunges us into his method. We're not in a coherent landscape. We jump from a memory of childhood sledding to a prophetic tarot reading, to a line from Wagner's opera about a doomed, loveless night. This is the code. Eliot is building a world entirely out of fragments, because that's what his world, and I'd argue, ours, feels like. We are constantly bombarded by pieces of information, pieces of stories, pieces of other people's lives, and we have to try to assemble a meaning from the rubble. The central myth he uses is the legend of the Fisher King from the Grail legends. The king is wounded, and his land is blighted, turned into a wasteland, incapable of renewal until a night arrives to ask the right healing question. Eliot sees this as a perfect metaphor for a spiritually sick society. The poem is that blighted land, and we hear its inhabitants everywhere. There's the wealthy, neurotic woman in her boudoir, surrounded by luxury, but screaming that she is waiting for a knock upon the door. There's the typist, home from her clerical job, who has a lifeless, indifferent encounter with her carbuncular lover. Eliot describes it with devastating clinical precision. Her brain allows one half-formed thought to pass. Well, now that's done, and I'm glad it's over. The intimacy that should be most human has become automated, empty, a transaction that leaves no mark. This is the true despair, not dramatic suffering, but a hollowing out. The inability to connect, even when bodies are in the same room. And this is where Eliot's own life as an immigrant, in a way, speaks to me. He was an American who moved to London, grappling with a shattered Europe. I'm a Bangladeshi who moved to New York, grappling with a hyper-connected, often disconnected global culture. I recognize his method of pulling from everywhere: the Upanishads, Buddha's fire sermon, the streets of London, a pub closing time. It's what we do now, consciously or not. We piece together our worldview from 1,000 different sources, cultures, and streams of data. Eliot was just the first to show how dizzying and spiritually demanding that process really is. He wasn't showing off his learning. He was replicating the noise in his own head, the noise of a civilization that has too many voices and no central chorus. So is it all just despair? Just a diagnosis of the disease? Not quite. The code has a key. It's hidden in the thunder. In the final, most fragmented section, What the Thunder Said, the poem reaches its driest, most desperate point. Here is no water, but only rock. And then, we hear it. Da. The thunder. Eliot draws this from the ancient Hindu text, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The thunder's voice says three things: Dutta, Diadvam, Damayata. Give, sympathize, control. This is the poem's tentative, fragile prescription. After hundreds of lines depicting a world of takers, of isolated egos, of emotional control as numbness, the thunder speaks of a different kind of control, self-control, of giving instead of taking, of sympathy, of truly seeing another person. It's the healing question for the Fisher King's wound. And the poem ends not with a bang, but with a whispered, multilingual collage. The last line, Shanta Shanta Shanti, the peace which passeth understanding. It's not a declaration that peace has been achieved. It's a mantra, a fragment of an ancient prayer uttered over the wreckage. It's what you say when you have nothing else left to say. A hope, not a reality. Reading The Wasteland today, it feels less like a historical artifact and more like a mirror. We live in our own wastelands, don't we? Scrolling through curated lives, feeling the unreal quality of cities Eliot described, communicating in fragments on timelines that feel eerily like his rapid-fire cuts between voices. Our numbness isn't in smoky drawing rooms, it's in the endless scroll. Our tarot cards are our personality quizzes and algorithmically generated horoscopes. We are still the Fisher King, asking our smart devices questions, but perhaps not the right, healing ones. What Eliot gave us was the language for this. He cracked the code by refusing to write a simple, coherent poem about incoherence. He built the feeling itself. And in that DA of the thunder, he left a tiny, powerful instruction manual. Give. Sympathize. Control yourself. In a world shouting for your attention, demanding your reaction, the most radical act might be to listen for that quiet, ancient command beneath the noise. Thank you for listening to this journey into one of poetry's most challenging and rewarding landscapes. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd share the episode with someone who might need it. For more deep dives into the ideas that shape us, subscribe to The Great Conversation wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul Jaif Farabi, signing off from Light Not Studios. Until next time, keep listening.